Guys, thanks for coming back to our ever busy You Can Too kitchen. When I made the lasagna earlier, I was left with 4 egg whites. Now, if you're getting to know me at all, you'll know that I can't stand waste. And because we're on Slimming World, obviously, treats are done very carefully, with lots of messing around and everything. I'm going to do now, I'm going to juggle all my equipment around the kitchen, I'm going to swing my knickers in the air, and I'm going to scream, Purple Harriet sings the blues. Left with the 4 egg whites, and as I say, our Slimming World treats, we have to be careful about them. Whilst we can have them, obviously they've got to be not too high in calories and SYNS and all the rest of it. So what I'm going to do this evening is a Slimming World version, or my version of a Slimming World version of pavlova. First thing I'm going to use is a tub of quark. What I'm going to do, as I've said to you before, it gets some water accumulating in it, and I don't want that because I want it to be thick and creamy. So over a bowl, I've got a sieve, and I've just got a clean muslin cloth. I know it looks, it's stained because of things I've used it for, but it is clean. And I'm just going to tip my quark straight into that. And every last bit in there. Okay, so I've got all my quark in that sieve with just a square of muslin, and I've put my quark on top of that. I'm now going to put that in the fridge. The whole thing is going to take about an hour and a half to 2 hours. So whilst the pavlova base is being made and corked, that cork will be straining all that liquid off. Okay, very, very clean bowl. If you've got any bits of grease or anything, though it won't stop your meringue rising altogether, it will slow it down significantly. So make sure your bowl is super clean. Into that, just the 4 egg whites that I had left over from the lasagna earlier. And I'm going to start whisking them. Okay, so I've whisked that. You can see, they say stiff peaks, you can see there are actually some little peaks in there. If I turn the bowl upside down, it's going to stay in there. To that, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon, 1 level tablespoon of artificial sweetener. Although I'm not doing the full fat version, I have put the quantities and everything for the full fat version in the description, so that if you're not on Slimming World, you can still do this, or if you don't want to do it with artificial sweetener or anything, you can still do the recipe just following those instructions. Right, I'm going to whisk that sweetener in, so we're going to sort of pause for a minute so you're not deafened. Okay, I've whisked the first tablespoon of artificial sweetener in. If you were using caster sugar, you'd have whipped 3 ounces of the caster sugar in by now. I'd advise doing it 1 ounce at a time and just keep whisking and whisking and keeping those stiff peaks all the way through. I'm now going to add 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar. This is found in the baking aisle along with the baking powder, bicarbonate of soda and all those sort of things. It's not terribly expensive. It's a type of acid. It's acidic. It's sort of like citric acid or something like that. But it just stabilises the mixture, and it helps you sort of cook it better and everything. It does improve it. I've tried all sorts and I've actually found this to be the best. So I'm literally just 1/4 teaspoon in there. Don't want huge amounts in there, just enough to make that bit of difference. And back to the whisking, and I'm going to add my 2nd tablespoon of artificial sweetener. Right, I've got just a normal baking tray here. I have lined it with non-stick parchment. I would recommend you use this rather than greaseproof paper because nothing sticks to this stuff. It's not a great deal more expensive. It works fantastically with all of the Slimming World cake recipes and everything, where if you try and use greaseproof paper, it just sticks. You end up with paper in your cakes and it ruins it. So non-stick parchment paper. With a metal spoon, scoop my meringue mix into there, and I'm just going to very carefully smooth that out with the back of my spoon, keeping it on the parchment paper. If you wanted to do individual meringues with this, you could quite easily, but I want just one big one. There are two schools of thought with meringues. One is the cook it long and slow. Yes, if you cook it long and slow, you're cooking it on an extremely low oven temperature for about 8 hours, and what that does is dries the meringue out. I don't want a dried out meringue for this recipe. I want it so it's sort of gooey in the middle, gooey and sticky in the middle. I'm happy with that. I might just put a few peaks around the side just to make it look pretty. I've got my oven. If you're using gas oven, it would be about 1/4. Gas mark 1/4. If you're using Celsius, it's about 100 to 110 degrees Celsius, and on Fahrenheit it's around 225. It's still quite a low oven, but if you were doing the slow method, you'd only have it on about 60 degrees Celsius. It's a really low, really slow cook. Okay, last bit in there. And I'm just going to pop that in the oven, and that's going to be in the oven for about 1.5 hours. Okay, so my meringue's come out of the oven. It had in the end about 1.75 hours. Just check it every so often and see you can see it's a lovely light golden brown, and it's lovely and set. Okay, so I'm just going to pop that. I've let it cool for a little while as well, because obviously I don't want it to melt. Whatever I'm putting on top, cream or quark or anything, will melt. Now, if you remember, I put my quark in a muslin square. If you haven't got muslin, it doesn't matter. You can just use a clean tea towel. You'll get the same effect. It's just a case of draining off the water. And I'm just going to tip it out of my cloth. It should come away quite good. Left with a thicker, creamier quark. You can see it's a lot thicker than it usually is. If you're using double cream, which I've put in the ingredients list for the sort of the slightly less healthy version, shall we say. If you're using double cream, obviously don't drain it, because you need all the liquid and everything in there. Just whip it up as normal, either with a hand whisk if you're feeling really strong, or an electric whisk. So I've got my quark there. I don't like this ridiculously sweet. I've put 2 tablespoons of sweetener in the ingredients list, but I'm only actually going to use 1. So I'm adding 1 tablespoon of artificial sweetener to the quark, and my vanilla bean extract. I'm just going to add 1 teaspoon of that. And I'm going to stir that in. As you can see, that literally took seconds. So now I'm just going to spread that over the top of my meringue, and I'm just going to spread that around with a fork, because it's easier to manage with a fork. If you leave that liquid in the quark, it'll soak into the meringue and it'll make it sort of soggy, and it'll actually sort of dissolve it. So you know, do make the effort of straining your quark. There's actually quite a lot of liquid that comes off of it, so it is worth doing. And then on top of that, I've just got some frozen blueberries here. You can use any fresh or frozen fruit you want. If you want to sprinkle a little bit of chopped shot over the top for another half a SYN, or you know, about a teaspoon, I think it's a half a SYN per teaspoon. Or if you're doing the full fat version, you want to spread either a chocolate sauce or a caramel sauce over it, then that's absolutely fine. But that's finished for me. I'm happy with that. As I say, the egg whites that I've used there are left over from the yolks that I used in the sauce that I made for the lasagna earlier, so it would have been thrown away normally. Okay guys, so that's about it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed watching, and I hope it'll get you cooking really soon, because you can too. Please, please, please like the video, share it with your friends, subscribe to our channel, touch the little bell icon to get notifications whenever we post more videos. Thanks for watching today. I really hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope to see you again soon in the You Can Too kitchen. Bye!